Marketplace Morning Report is next.
The successful black businesses that nurtured some of baseball's greatest players.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by Twilio Segment. Segment helps every team access good data that's real-time, clean, and accurate. The result is relevant customer experiences that drive real revenue. Segment.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. We're leading with aircraft maker Boeing facing scrutiny at 2 Senate hearings today. These come following whistleblowers at Boeing reporting concerns about safety practices allegedly leading to airplane defects, and a report from an FAA panel. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has this preview.
The Senate Commerce Committee holds the first hearing today. It's on the recommendations of a panel of experts appointed by the FAA to look into Boeing safety issues. The panel issued a report which found a disconnect between Boeing management and workers on safety. It said it's concerned that, quote, safety-related messages or behaviors are not being implemented across the entire Boeing population. Boeing says it's taking steps to foster a safety culture that empowers employees. A Boeing engineer will have a lot to say at the second hearing today before the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Sam Solopor says sections of Boeing's 787 Dreamliner aren't fastened together correctly and could eventually break apart. Boeing told the Associated Press it hasn't found any cracks or fatigue that would indicate a problem. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
Markets Dow and S&P futures are up 0.5%. NASDAQ futures up 0.3%. I see crude oil is down 1%, just under $84 a barrel now. President Biden will push for a tripling of tariffs on steel and aluminum coming from China. Biden is meeting with union steel workers in Pittsburgh today. The administration sees China trying to work its way out of economic doldrums by unfairly boosting cheap exports. The U.S. doesn't import all that much Chinese steel, about 0.6% of what we use. Canada and Brazil are the big exporters of steel in this direction.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden, the password manager used by millions for streamlined password management at home and at work. Learn more about stress-free security at bitwarden.com. And by C3 Generative AI, verified, traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at c3.ai.
Now to our Econ Extra Credit project, where we watch and learn from documentary films every month and explore economic themes. Point is, you're very much invited to watch during the month. For April, with baseball season back, we're watching the 2023 documentary, The League. It's a fast-paced history of baseball's Negro Leagues, established several decades before the integration of the major leagues began. The Negro Leagues were vibrant, successful businesses and launched the careers of some of the best players baseball's ever seen.
I hear black people talking about church. I talk about the Negro League. So much depth. You had all kind of stars. That was a camaraderie, man.
I'm joined by Larry Lester, co-founder of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, and one of the experts featured in that documentary. Mr. Lester, welcome.
Thank you for having me on your show, David.
So these black teams are coming together in the late 19th century, early part of the last century. But let's fast forward to 1920, and people need to know the name of Rube Foster, Andrew Rube Foster. Tremendously talented baseball player himself, but this is a businessman, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. We think of Rube Foster as the godfather of Negro League Baseball. He was the innovator and the creator of the Negro National League, the first black league to survive a full season. Rube Foster got all these great independent teams that were prominent during that period in the upper Midwest. He brought all 8 teams together to meet at the YMCA in Kansas City, Missouri. And they created an articles of incorporation. They became a legitimate professional baseball league. And so we had our own league. And that was the essence of Rube Foster in his model We are the ship, all else the sea. It was sailing against the tide of oppression and rejection from white America.
And these leagues, were enormously influential, obviously, in baseball, but much more than baseball. Other industries, other parts of society drew energy from what was happening in baseball.
What we find is, as we become more independent as entrepreneurs, we got Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Malone starting hair care products for Black women. Back during that period, a Black person could not buy insurance. So you have entrepreneurs like A.G. Gaston out of Birmingham who would sell an insurance policy for $0.05 a week to Black Americans. And so we had to feed ourselves, become independent. So it was great. Haberdashers, barbershops, nightclub owners were owned by Black people at the time.
So we come out of the Second World War, and the first Black player to play in the major leagues in that era is, of course, Jackie Robinson, who comes from Kansas City. But that gets us to the central irony of watching the league, right? The fight for civil rights, the fight against segregation spells the end for a treasured resource, the Negro Leagues.
Yes, the ultimate victory of success decided to be the ultimate demise of Black baseball and many Black businesses, much like the big box stores come to town and the small businesses go out of business. Major League Baseball hijacked the Negro League fans, and rightfully so. We want to see how Black players will perform on the big stage, just like we enjoy the Olympics. We want to see if we are the best in the world, not just in our neighborhood.
Larry Lester, co-founder of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. He was a historical consultant on the film and appears in the documentary that we're watching this month called The League. Mr. Lester, thank you very much.
But thank you for having me on your show, David.
Econ Extra Credit, documentary films every month on Marketplace Topics. Sign up for our free weekly newsletter if you haven't already. It's at marketplace.org/Econ Extra Credit. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with our morning report. From APM, American Public Media.